that is the most beautiful thing about solo traveling. It's the fact that you're so connected to the world inside of you. And at the same time, because you're traveling solo and you're not connecting to your friends or to your significant other or to your family, you're connecting to the world around you, and you fully allow the energy of that world to come into you and just unfold the most incredible encounters, the most incredible moments. If you just let it, if you just do the solo trip right, it truly will open up a completely new and different world for you. Fabulous people, welcome to the podcast for all the babes who create their own life trends. My name is Anastasia, and this podcast is all about inspiring you to relentlessly pursue your biggest dreams and live your most authentic, abundant life. Well, this episode is a bit personal because today we're going to dive deep into the world of solo travel and how it can completely transform your life. I started solo traveling when I was 13 years old, very early, but no trip has been as transformative as the one that I'm about to share with you. So, if you ever dreamt of solo traveling or you were just curious about the idea, but you never actually pulled the trigger and booked that ticket or took that trip, then this episode is definitely for you. Maybe you think that solo traveling can bring a lot of loneliness and lonely days and lonely nights, or maybe because you feel like a solo trip can be scary, unsafe, or boring. So today I'm going to reframe that mindset because a solo trip can be one of the most empowering, liberating, transformative things you'll ever do for yourself. If you do it right, of course. Because a solo trip is not about being lonely, it is about connecting on a deeper level with yourself, with the world around you, and with your deepest needs, desires, wants. So, today I'm going to share with you the most transformational trip I've ever taken. And of course, I'm going to share with you lots of tips for those of you who want to take a solo trip because trust me, guys, it is so, so worth it. And so, when I sat down to prepare for this episode, I looked back on my life and I realized that my life pretty much has been one big solo trip. I moved, as most of you know, from Ukraine to the US by myself when I was 16 years old. And then I moved again from the US to Rome at around 31. And of course, I took so many solo trips in between. But when it comes to one trip, because of course I wanted to share one trip with you that has completely changed my life and the course of my life and has done the most transformation on me in the shortest period of time, is my trip to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca. There are so many people all around the world who take those trips to go to different places to drink this plant medicine. And of course, There are so many stories all over the internet about those trips. So, of course, even though this trip has not been a typical traditional sightseeing trip that a lot of people take, it was truly one of the most powerful solo trips that I've ever taken. See, I was at a very pivotal moment in my life when I decided to go on this trip. I was newly divorced. I just moved to Rome. I was 31 years old and I was starting a brand new chapter in my life, completely from scratch. And if you guys haven't listened or watched the episode where I share with you what it was like to actually move from the US to Italy at 31, I think it was 31, maybe 32. It's been a long time ago. And to start a brand new chapter, then of course you can catch up on that episode. It is called How I Moved to Italy with Zero Plan and Built My Dream Life. See, at this point of my life journey, I was discovering who I was at that point, who I've become, and at the same time reconnecting with pieces of me that I haven't ever connected or haven't been connected to for a long, long time. And around this time, I've heard so many people talking about their trips to different parts around the world to drink ayahuasca, to take the plant medicine. And quite a few people around me also have done those trips. And I've seen firsthand how transformative those trips were. It wasn't just something like a quick fix or a trend or something that they would say to others, but in the reality, it was something totally different. No, I've seen firsthand powerful transformations in the lives of those people, and not just for a brief moment, but actually for a long, long time. It looked like so many of them came completely transformed. And at first, I was very curious. And then the more I observed, the more I listened. I'm a Taurus. We don't make fast decisions. And the more I observed and heard and read and researched, I got from the point of curiosity to making a decision to actually go ahead and do it. So I pulled the trigger, bought a ticket to Costa Rica, and hopped on that plane and embarked on a journey that was about to change my entire life. Now, I know a lot of you will ask me, Anastasia, how was it? Was it scary? And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, as I always am. I wasn't scared. I was excited because when you go through a divorce, move to a completely different continent, and quit a successful career, honestly, after this, nothing can scare you. But looking back, I can definitely tell that at that moment, at that point of my life, I was lost. I was lost, but at the same time, hopeful and excited for what I am about to experience. So when I arrived, I decided to go full on solo travel mode. And I actually booked a place where I would stay all on my own, because on the property, they had different type of buildings. You could stay on your own. You could stay in a room with 2 people, 4, I think also 8. But I just knew that I needed that time just to myself. especially after plant medicine, I knew that I would need to come back to my own world and just be in it. And that's the beauty of solo traveling, because you get to have all this time with yourself, which after doing so many solo trips and spending so much time on my own, I absolutely love it. I love, love, love being on my own. And at the same time, solo traveling will always push you out of your comfort zone. No matter how many solo trips you've taken, it will always push you out of your comfort zone if you let it. Because outside of that comfort zone, that's where the biggest transformations happen. And of course, that solo trip took me out of my comfort zone in so many different ways. One, we were not allowed to drink any coffee. And I don't know about you guys. I know that now it's trendy to drink matcha teas. I actually am drinking one here. Or herbal teas, or whatever these days it is trendy to substitute your coffee with. To this day, I'm not going to function without coffee. I'm going to need my coffee in the morning. I don't drink it throughout the day, but morning coffee is sacred for me. So for me to be without coffee first prior to the trip, because they need you to cleanse your system, and then of course during the trip, was quite challenging. Another thing that was of course challenging is that we were on a complete vegetarian / vegan diet. We also were not forced, but encouraged to do morning yoga, which again, for me, I know so many people that swear by yoga. So many women love doing yoga. It's not me, guys. My type of workouts is where I pretty much get myself to the point that I almost pass out. That's the type of workouts I enjoy. I love my HIIT workouts. I love fast paced. I love weights. Yoga for me is a little bit of a different animal. And another thing that we were encouraged to do is colonic cleansing, which is very, very interesting thing. If you've never done it and you're curious, I personally love them, but it is definitely not for everyone. And the environment it was done at that particular place in Costa Rica also was quite different than what you would actually experience if you are doing them maybe in the US or Canada. And then, of course, the biggest out of comfort zone moments were the ayahuasca ceremonies themselves. I've done 4 ayahuasca ceremonies back to back, night to night, with the final one lasting from 7:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. So talking about out of comfort zone experience. So I know some of you are curious, probably, Anastasia, what it was like to attend those ayahuasca ceremonies. And if a lot of you are curious, of course, I can do a separate episode on it, going deeper into my experience with ayahuasca, with this plant medicine. But just imagine about 50 people every single evening going into a room with mattresses and buckets, connected by one single goal: to disconnect fully from the outside world and to connect with themselves. And then you drink the plant medicine, you sit down on your mattress, and you're waiting for the medicine to kick in. And you know that at some point you are going to completely lose control over your mind, over your body, and you will have to completely surrender. And no matter what kind of trips, solo trips we take, be it an ayahuasca journey on the inside or a sightseeing trip to another city or country on the outside, every single journey will always be unpredictable. Things will always happen when we travel. But the beauty of traveling is to completely allow it to take over, for you to lose control and just go with the flow of what this journey is unfolding for you. Because if you do that, the most incredible things are going to start happening to you, especially if it's a solo trip, because you will wake up in the morning with so many different thoughts and beliefs. And then throughout the day, you will experience so many things. You will feel so much. You will experience so much that you will feel like you're going to bed a completely different person. And then the cycle just repeats itself again and again and again. And that is the most beautiful thing about solo traveling. It's the fact that you're so connected to the world inside of you. And at the same time, because you're traveling solo and you're not connecting to your friends or to your significant other or to your family, you're connecting to the world around you, and you fully allow the energy of that world to come into you and just unfold the most incredible encounters, the most incredible moments. If you just let it, if you just do the solo trip right, it truly will open up a completely new and different world for you. And not only on the outside, but on the inside as well. You will learn how to trust yourself, how to fully trust yourself, and to know that no matter what situation life throws you in, you will find your way out. You will also learn how to truly listen to yourself, to your gut, to your intuition, and you will build such a strong bond with your inner world. It's just incredible. And I remember on my last night in Costa Rica, I went outside and the whole world around me seemed like it was transformed. I laid in the hammock, and the silence of that night, I honestly, I will never forget it. Except for the crickets around, there was this feeling that the whole world just stood still. And I was looking at the sky full of stars. And for the first time in my life, I felt so at peace and so connected to the universe. I was no longer this separate part of it, but I really felt like I was one with everything and everyone around me. And for the first time in my life, I felt guided. And I felt that I'm taken care of. That no matter what this life is going to bring my way, and I still don't know, none of us does, that I will be okay. that I will be absolutely okay. So I came back to Rome a completely transformed person. And that trip truly changed the course of my entire life, guys, to the moment where I am today. It played such an instrumental role in the person who is sitting in front of you today. And I will be forever grateful to that solo trip and to myself for actually pulling the trigger and embarking on that journey. Now, if I inspired some of you, or a lot of you, or maybe just one of you, that's enough to actually look closer into taking that solo trip. I have a few, of course, recommendations for you, some pieces of advice, because I know that planning your first solo trip can be a little bit scary, overwhelming, confusing. So here are a few things that I would recommend for you guys if you've never traveled solo and this is your first solo trip. And of course, for those of you who actually traveled solo a lot of times or just once, it doesn't matter, and you have some advice, then of course, please feel free to share those pieces of information in the comments down below. They will help your fellow travelers so much. We're all in this together. So, number one thing that I recommend if this is going to be your first solo trip is to not go too far. Unless you're super adventurous and you say, listen, I don't care, first trip, let's go all in. But if you are a little bit scared and uncertain, then I recommend for you not to book a trip all the way across the ocean. Go somewhere close to the place where you are living. It can be just a solo trip to another city, to maybe, if you're in the US, another state. It doesn't necessarily have to be another country. But even that weekend getaway, if you go for a weekend, will give you a taste, just a taste of what solo traveling can bring. And again, if you do it right, you'll really be bitten by that solo trip bug, and you will want to go on another solo trip and on another, and maybe even then to another foreign country or another continent. Now, let me also tell you that solo traveling is not something that if you've done it once, now you have to do it your entire life. For some people, one solo trip is enough. It can be so life-changing and transformative that you genuinely don't need it. You don't need necessarily to travel your whole life by yourself. And it's the same actually with taking ayahuasca. I remember they said that when you decide to go on a trip to do ayahuasca, it is because Mother Ayahuasca actually called you in. And some people go on ayahuasca trips every year or every half a year or every few years. Others go on the trip once, like I did, and it is enough for them. So solo traveling, it's similar to this. If you enjoy solo traveling so much and it literally calls you in, and it is something that you feel like you want to do, you crave on doing on a consistent basis, do it. For other people, one solo trip can be absolutely enough. So please, I always talk about it in all of my podcast episodes and videos when it comes to self-exploration and self-growth. Do what you feel is right. Don't do just because someone is doing things this way, you need to do things this way. Do things the way they feel right to you. because this is the right way to you, not the way someone else does it. That might be right for them, but do it always the way you feel like you should do. So that's advice number one. The next thing that I recommend for you, especially if you are a female solo traveler, is that you do a very thorough research on the location you will be traveling to, accommodation you will be staying in. Make sure that you read tons of reviews. Make sure you're staying in a safe, central location close to people and that area is very safe. You guys know I talk about it in pretty much every episode as well when it comes to choosing the right accommodation, choosing the right hotel or Airbnb, choosing the right area, making sure that that area is safe. And that is, of course, a priority, the biggest priority if you're a solo female traveler. Also, make sure that you have all your emergency contacts with you. For example, I am not good with memorizing phone numbers. Not good at all, guys. But I have them written somewhere just in case something happens to my phone. Because, of course, I know stories where people lose phones, their phones get stolen. It happens with international travel. It happens a lot in any kind of travel. So make sure that you have all your emergency contacts saved somewhere besides your phone. And same goes for your passport. For example, I always recommend for you to have a copy of your passport and not necessarily carry it around with you. For example, if you're in Italy, I always say leave the passport in a safe in your hotel room or your accommodation and just have a copy of it with you. Make sure that you also have copies of your credit cards. Make sure that you have all the necessary information just in case something happens. And I always say it, not to scare anyone, but to bring awareness to those things. Because when we come prepared, even the worst case scenario and something happens, it's not going to shake us as much as if we came completely and fully unprepared. Now, if you want to meet people while you're solo traveling, one of the best and safest way to do it is by booking yourself on an experience or a tour with other fellow travelers. And I've actually seen it for so many years when I used to run my food tours. Of course, I don't run them myself anymore. I have an incredible team for them. But when I used to run my food tours in one of the most vibrant neighborhoods in Rome, Trastevere, you guys know who've done your research, you know it's foodie's paradise. I used to have so many solo travelers who would book themselves on my tours. And then during the tour, of course, as we are going wine tasting and then trying different street food in those hole-in-the-wall type of places, or doing cheese tasting in one of the oldest cheese stores in entire Rome, and then going for dinner to a trattoria with carbonara and wine. And of course, over the course of the tour, everyone really gets connected on such a fun and friendly and personal level, and there are so many conversations going on at the table. Everyone is having fun, discussing their journey, their trip, where they're from, where they traveled so far, what they experienced. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful atmosphere. And then what actually happens a lot of times after those experiences or tours, people truly become friends. Somehow being so far away from home brings people closer together. And what happened after the tour, people actually would continue to enjoy the evening together. And the next morning, I would get messages saying, Anastasia, thank you so much for organizing this, because We had a blast. We went out, we went to this bar or we went to this enoteca and we danced and we talked. And then some of them even were saying, and then today we're actually meeting to do this kind of tour and to go on this kind of bike ride. I mean, it was incredible. Some of the connections you built with your fellow travelers when you're far away from home. It is beautiful connection, something completely different. And of course, my final tip, especially again for female solo travelers, is trust your gut, ladies. You know that as women, we have such strong intuition. If something inside of you says, don't go to that bar, please listen. Even if someone is saying the opposite or trying to convince you, always listen to your gut. Don't go to places that you don't feel genuinely like going. Don't talk to people that you genuinely don't feel like you should talk to. Just be aware, be smart, and always, always listen to your intuition. It will always guide you, no matter where you are, be it at home or doing a solo trip. And the last thing that I almost forgot to mention is to keep your family and friends updated of where you are and what you're doing. For example, when my best friend comes to visit and she stays in Rome, she always tells me, messages me, or calls me and says, hey, I'm walking around, I'm on Via del Corso. And then when she gets back to her hotel room, she says, hey, I just got back to my hotel room. So throughout her day, even though, of course, it's a vacation for her. I live here, I work here. I'm very, very busy when it comes to my schedule. It's always intense. But I always know throughout the day what she's doing and where she is. So it's just very important that at least one or two people know exactly where you are at all times. Now, you might ask me, Anastasia, but what is the deeper why? Why to do at least one solo trip? And I will tell you over and over again without any hesitation. During solo traveling, you get to meet yourself. When you take away all the distractions, all the external expectations, and you step out of your daily routine, you're able to ask yourself, who am I? Who am I at this point of my life? And solo traveling allows you to do that. It allows you to understand who you are at this point of your life. Solo traveling is when you meet yourself. And that is the biggest gift of solo traveling. Because after this, you never come back the same person. And I am so curious, guys, to know of your solo travel experiences, or if you're just starting to toy around with the idea of a solo trip. Please share with me where you plan on going, where you want to go. And of course, I love, love, love reading all of your comments, all of your stories. It truly enriches the experience of all the travelers around the world, because as I always say, we always learn from each other's experiences. We get inspired by each other. This is the most beautiful thing about traveling and travel community. And of course, next week we are going to be back with the new episode in my series, That Time in Italy. And on this next episode, I'm going to share with you the story of our clients from last year who had quite challenging time with the trains in Italy. I will share with you their experience and of course tons of useful tips, tricks, and information when it comes to transportation in Italy. So, next episode is going to be packed with useful information because I know transportation in Italy, be it a water taxi in Venice or a train in Florence, it is always such a pain point for a lot of travelers. So next episode is going to be packed with useful information. Again, for you not to be scared ever, but to be prepared and aware. I'm so looking forward to sharing that next episode with you. Now, thank you so much for tuning in into today's episode. I truly hope that you enjoyed it. And if you want more of Stay Fabulous series, please remember to smack the subscribe button. And if you're listening to this episode on iTunes or Spotify, please leave me a review with your biggest takeaway from this episode. I absolutely love reading all of your comments. And of course, I'm so looking forward to connecting with you in my next episode. Until then, and always, stay fabulous.